We have a sun that goes down, we have nightfall that comes in, we have a skybox, there's rain coming. So it works pretty well. However, there are still a couple of things that don't work yet, and one of the things is that even if it's raining, there are no puddles on the floor. That is something that we want to change. And the first thing we will do is we will set the weather scenario to be heavy rain. So this is the heavy rain weather scenario where there's rain everywhere, but as you can see there are no puddles yet. And we probably want to fix that. We can also see that there's still something going wrong with the lighting of the splines. That is something we're going to worry about a little bit later. But let's first have a look at how we can add puddles to the scene. Let's open the terrain shader and then go all the way down and open the parent. And here we see the terrain shader that's being used for this level. It's quite a beast. There's a lot of layers, and that could be a problem when we continue, but let's see what happens. I don't know it either. I haven't used this level yet, so it's going to be a surprise. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a material function call, and the function that we're going to call is the Puddles function. And the Puddles function has two mandatory inputs and outputs. One is the material attribute in, and one is the material attribute out. The other ones are all optional, and I'm not going to use them here anyway. It's for when you want to have some advanced puddling. In order to connect this, we need to work with material attributes, and a lot of materials from Unreal don't use it. So you need to do that yourself first. What you need to do is you need to make sure that all of these inputs are going into an attribute node, and that's called make material attributes. And if we hold the control button on the keyboard, we can move the base color, the metallic, the specular, the roughness, and everything else that you will find in your material, and we're going to move it over to the make material attribute so that the final node is going to be empty. And then on the bottom left we're going to go to use material attributes, and we're going to set that to true. And now this node collapses into a material attribute nodes. This is a material attribute, and from this we go into the puddles, and then we go into the final material shader node. And that's that. Right now the puddles on the terrain should work. However, it could be, like I said, that there are too many layers in here and that we exceed the number of texture samplers that we have, and that will give a warning. But in order to fix that, you need to select all of the texture samplers that you have in your material and set the source, the sampler source, to shared, well, either wrap or clamp, but usually you use wrap in a tiling material such as a landscape material. In this case, everything was already set to shared wrap, and that means that this will most likely work. So let's go ahead and save this. And because it's a terrain shader, this might take quite some time. Okay, the terrain shader is done compiling. So let's have a look in the level what we see right now. Well, the first thing you notice is that everything is quite shiny, especially when we move the camera back, and that is because the grass has quite a short distance, quite a short range, and the puddles that are forming in the background might be a bit too big. You do see that there are some parts that are not being reflective, but overall I think the puddles are too big for this level. So we're going to address that in a second. But the puddles themselves are working, so that's good. And let's see if it's also dynamically working. So if we put a box here, and we're going to put it like this. Then we should be able to remove, yeah, we removed the puddles at this point, and there is also no rain under the roof. That's all dynamically done by the system. Let's see if we can get rid of the grass for now, because then we have a little bit of a better preview. Because now we also see all of the puddles and what's going on exactly. It's getting a little bit too dark, so we might want to change the lighting of the heavy rain preset a little bit. Let's say there. Okay. Oh, here we have the puddle forming. It's some nice puddles. It flattens all the normals, and it only happens on flat spots. So it doesn't happen on slope spots. There the ground will just be wet, but there will no puddles being formed on that sloped terrain. It will only be formed on flat terrain, like we can see over here. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, it will automatically remove puddles at places where there cannot be a puddle in there. So if I put a sphere here, then you will see that the puddle is being cut out. Right now the resolution of the cutout might be a little bit too small, because you can see some jagged lines over here. And in order to fix that, we can go to the advanced settings of EasySky and look at the puddle render target size, which is now 1K. Let's set to 2K and then click on the button to actually do that. And then you can see that it is getting some more resolution, and the cutout is better than we just saw. Yeah, I think this is quite decent. Of course, the bigger the number, the more resources it will take, but a 2K render should be sufficient. Okay, let's get the terrain back. Foliage types, show all. There we go, we have some nice puddles and some nice water. And of course they also disappear when we go back to clear sky. As we can see, there is already a little bit of moisture or water in the original material. So that's where this comes from. This is not the puddles that come from EasySky. Okay, so those are the puddles. Those are now also working. The next thing we might want to do is add some snow.